The Walking Dead Onslaught released on the 29th of September. It had poor reviews from both media and players. On the 19th of October, they uploaded a combat rebalance patch, which did help improve the game, but it still isn't great. Here's why. Let's start with the weapon handling. Onslaught's core gameplay loop is killing zombies. Lots of them. So how the various weapons feel to use needs to be really good. Unfortunately, it isn't. You have melee weapons as well as various guns. The melee weapons are split up into two categories. You've got your sharp stabbing weapons and then you've got your blunt bashing weapons. You've got short range and long range for both types. So you've got a combat knife, meat cleaver or a hammer for the short range, and then you've got fire axes, machetes and wrenches for long range. When the game launched, the gameplay was extremely poorly balanced. With no form of stamina, no weapon breakages, you could literally just run through a horde of zombies with your starting combat knife playing whack-a-mole. The guns were also extremely weak, with the starter pistol sometimes taking 4 to 5 headshots to actually kill a walker. To try and fix this, they made the guns more powerful, which I'll get back to shortly, and they also made the sharp weapons stick in the zombies. This does actually help balance things out, but there are actually two problems. Problem 1. Rather than doing it like Saints and Sinners, where if the weapon gets stuck, you have to tug and yank it out, they simply added a timer. It doesn't matter how much you yank on that thing, it won't come out until a few seconds have passed. Depending on the weapon, it determines how long it sticks in, so a fire axe seems to come out quicker than the combat knife. You can also upgrade the weapons to improve this, but it's a bad system that's clearly been rushed out. Problem 2 is that it's way too easy to stick the weapon in the walker. With Saints and Sinners, you've got to use a wide stroke when stabbing a walker. Short jabs will simply bounce off. In Onslaught, you can simply flick your wrist or give the zombie a little bonk on the head. This also causes issues when in combat with a few walkers, because your knife or weapon can accidentally get stuck in one when you don't want it to, and this can be very frustrating in the heat of a battle. The two-handed weapons don't have the feeling of weight either. There seems to be some slight dampening applied, but it's very easy to use the fire axe one-handed. In fact, it feels quite weird to try and use the axe two-handed, so you end up just walking around, stick the axe in the zombie's head, wait 2 seconds, pull the axe out, and repeat. And repeat, and repeat. With Saints and Sinners, the axe is actually quite unwieldy one-handed, so you really need to use two hands, and like I mentioned before, you need a good swing for it to stick in. Having the blades stick in the walkers though, has definitely helped from you just walking through them like they aren't a threat, even if it hasn't been implemented as well as it should have. Because when you get them grouped together, those 2 seconds it takes to pull your weapon out is enough time for the walkers to start to grab you and cause damage. This is where the blunt weapons come in handy, because they're good for crowd control. You can knock the zombies back, giving you some time to either run or try to pick off some walkers to thin the horde. Usually 2 hits to the head with a hammer is enough for a kill, although you can technically kill them with enough body shots. The most efficient way is hitting them in the brain though. Even stabbing in the lower part of the head won't be an instant kill, which is obviously as it should be, so there's little point in hitting them anywhere else. You can chop off the arms so they can't grab you, but they can still bite. You can't take off their legs unfortunately, so they have to crawl. There are also some armoured walkers that are more difficult to kill. The best way to kill them initially is with a blunt weapon and repeatedly bash them over the head. But you can upgrade your sharp weapons to penetrate their armour, but it still requires 2 stabs to the head instead of 1. When you get a horde coming for you with a few of these armoured walkers, then you really either need to run or use a gun to pick some of them off from a distance. You've got one-handed guns like various pistols, and also two-handed guns like the lever action rifle or full auto assault rifle. I've got a couple of problems with these as well. First, you can two-hand the pistol by moving your offhand close to the gun. You don't need to press a button, which I personally like, especially when you're using the index controllers. The problem is, to remove your second hand off the gun, the range for the trigger to release it is actually pretty ridiculous. I've put the controllers on the screen so you can see the position of my real hands, and it's actually quite hard to try and keep the gun and my real hands in the shot. Half-Life Alyx uses this system, and as you can see, you barely have to move your hand away. They also use this proximity grip system for two-handed guns as well, which to be honest is absolute poppycock. Your hand literally sticks to the gun, so when you want to move your hand away for any reason, it sticks, which feels really janky. This needs to be changed for either a grip to hold or a grip to toggle, with the option to change it in the options. When you're actually holding the guns and firing them, they actually feel pretty good, they've got a nice bit of kick which makes them feel powerful, and the iron sights glow green when they're lined up. I actually prefer the shooting of the guns in Onslaught over Saints and Sinners, which uses the same weighting system as the melee weapons, and it can give them a floaty feel. One-handed guns in Saints and Sinners in particular don't feel great to move and aim in my opinion. When you've emptied a magazine, it's time to reload. This is the second issue I have with the guns in this game. The reload just doesn't feel good at all. With the pistol, for example, when you run out, you will automatically eject the magazine, although you can do this manually before the gun is empty. Your hand will do a little flick animation, which feels really weird when it happens, because your hands are moving in the game independently to your real hands. To grab a magazine, you put your hand down by your side and it magically appears. Then you bring your hand up to under the pistol and yet another animation plays, taking control of your hands, causing a massive disconnect between what you're seeing and what you're feeling, breaking immersion. Using an animation to smooth out the reload isn't actually a bad thing. Some people might not realise this, because I didn't notice this myself until recently, but Half-Life Alyx uses an animation for the reload of their guns. The reason you don't notice it is because you're naturally moving your hand with the animation, so it feels like you're doing it yourself. They need to ditch the animation when you eject the magazine, just have it drop out of the gun, and they need to change the way that your hand is holding the magazine, and then fine-tune the animation for the reload. You can see in Half-Life Alyx, you're holding the magazine at the bottom, so you're naturally going to bring it up to the bottom of the pistol in the correct place, and then the animation just finishes the reload so it looks smooth. This adds a really nice layer of polish that you don't get in most VR games. With Onslaught, you're holding the magazine with a full grip. There's no way that you can insert the mag into the pistol holding it like this. The animation also needs to be very fast. The way it is now in Onslaught feels way too slow, even just speeding up what they've got right now would be an improvement. Let's move on to the hand interaction. This game doesn't really have any. The holster system for the weapons is a weapon wheel like in Half-Life Alyx. I think it's fine for that game because you've only got 3 guns and no melee combat. But with this, I would much prefer having holster points on your body, because in the heat of battle sometimes you can get the wrong weapon. They're also using this really weird system where you only use your offhand to pick things up, or should I say vacuum things up. In the armory, when you choose a weapon for your loadout, you can pick them up to try it out. You naturally want to pick it up with your right hand, if you're right-handed like me, but nothing happens. You use your left hand, which then warps the weapon into your right hand. It just feels weird. You can't dual wield. It would be extremely handy if you could have a knife in one hand and a pistol in the other, but that's just not possible. Your offhand is pretty much a vacuum cleaner, sucking up any health or supplies on the way, and health is just automatically applied. You've got no inventory system, so you don't have to manage anything. You don't have to bandage yourself up, drink anything, or maybe use a syringe to heal yourself. You can punch things with your offhand though. It can be useful for pushing zombies back while you're waiting for your knife to be done cooking the zombies' brains. You can also grab a walker's head with one hand and stick the knife in with the other. Although I never personally bothered with this because of how easy it is to stick it in. You also punch your way through the environment. If you want to open a door, you punch it. You want to open a box, you punch it. If you want to open a fridge, you punch it. The game's clearly arcade focused, and that's fine, we don't need 2 Saints and Sinners, but it seems that Servios haven't moved on from the early days of VR, or understand how to make a game feel satisfying and immersive. One last thing I want to talk about is the actual game that's built around all this stuff. This is an official Walking Dead game based on the AMC TV show, so you get to play as the iconic characters, Rick, Daryl, Michonne and Carol. You play as Daryl for the story missions, and then you get to choose from the other characters for the scavenging runs. The story missions are the best part. These are linear levels going from point to point with little set pieces and moments along the way. I find them enjoyable. If I could, I probably would just play through the story and be done with the game, but then the game would only last about 3 hours. You can't do that though, because they've clearly tried to pad the game out by forcing you to have to grind through the same scavenge levels to get supplies over and over and over again. You have to get the supplies to unlock survivors, and you need a certain amount of survivors to unlock the next mission. You have 2 scavenge runs to go on at first, and as you unlock more survivors, more open up which are bigger areas to explore, but they're not massive open areas. You have some which involve you going down a street from point to point, going through stores or houses along the way. And you've got some smallish areas you have to scavenge while holding off walkers until a timer runs out and you get picked up. They're okay the first time you do them, but you have to do the same few levels so many times to progress, it quickly becomes extremely repetitive. If they give you different objectives to clear in these scavenge runs, like getting a certain number of kills with certain weapons, maybe so many headshots, just something to force you to change up the gameplay and give you something to do other than suck up supplies with your hand, it would be better than what it is now. Whilst you're on these supply runs, you also have a horde chasing you down to force you to keep moving. And when I say horde, I really mean a red mist like the zones you find in Battle Royale games with cardboard cutouts of zombies. If you walk into the zone, horde, there's actually nothing there. Your health just starts to drop chunks. There's more stuff I could talk about, like the base at Alexandria which you can build up, which gives you extra health and other perks, or the graphics which are very poor with low resolution textures and bad lighting, which makes the game look like a mobile game, which it probably will be at some point when they bring it to the Quest. I think with some more tweaks they can improve the combat for both the gun and the melee, and they can definitely make killing more satisfying. And if all you want is some brain out zombie bashing fun, you may get some enjoyment out of this game. But I can't help feel that Servios are a little out of touch with what a modern VR game should be, and dropping co-op was a big mistake, as that would have at least given this game its own USP over Saints and Sinners. If you're looking for a VR zombie game, then the Walking Dead Saints and Sinners is the one to get. I don't think Servios can turn this one around for me personally, unless they redesign the entire game, which obviously they're not going to do. Anyway, that's enough of me sitting on my high horse. Let me know if you've played Onslaught and if you agree or disagree with this video. And if you haven't already, you can subscribe for more hit pieces on games that developers have put years of their blood, sweat and tears into.